What kind of books do you like to read? What kind of magazines? Do you ever wonder who puts them together for you? Not the writer who writes the original words, not the publisher who prints everything, and not the seller who puts everything on the shelf for you. I'm talking about the editors. The editors may have to work with all three of these people in the making of your books or magazines. But how do you become an editor? And what do you have to worry about once you are one? While the education to become an editor is not extensive, the responsibilities can be, and the salary does not always reflect this. The education required varies upon what you're going to edit and who you're editing for. The U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics notes that the base educational requirements for an editor is a bachelor's degree in either English or journalism. However, this is not always true. HarperCollins, a large publisher in the U.S., notes that one must either be entering their final year of college or be recently graduated just to be an intern. However, in contrast, Agora Inc. in Baltimore prefers a degree, but only requires an ability to learn on the job. Editors also have a few less school-oriented knowledge requirements. For instance, Agora Inc. in Baltimore publishes many economic pamphlets. Therefore, they require their editors to have a base knowledge of money management and investments. Forbes Business Magazine also notes that one of the key requirements for being an editor is a good eye and a passion for creativity. The level of education you'll need depends on the kind of editing you're going to do. The responsibilities of book editors and magazine editors vary greatly. David Kudler, an editor and writer for the Huffington Post, wrote an article called 7 Deadly Myths and 3 Inspiring Truths About Book Editors, in which he lists the 4 main kinds of book editors: developmental, line, copy, and proofreaders. Developmental editors focus not only on grammar, but plot and character development and work very closely with the author. Line editors work a little less closely with the author, but focus on many of the same things. Copy editors focus mostly on language and consistency of style in the work. And proofreaders focus on grammar, syntax, punctuation, and format of the work. Magazine editors have a much smaller focus. For instance, instead of long chapters in large books, they must worry about shorter articles in smaller spaces. Because of the amount of articles that could be included in a single magazine, the subject may change from page to page, which will require them to have more background knowledge on what they're editing. They'll also have to worry about including any illustrations and advertisements the publisher wants to put in the work. For instance, this is a page out of Best Friends magazine about a woman and her many, many dogs. The editor of this magazine would not only have had to worry about the grammar and fact-checking in this article, but also the placement of the title, the subtitle, and any pictures and underlying words on the pictures. They would also have had to decide whether to have text on a long page or text and pictures as of this page, and any advertisements that would have had to go on any subsequent pages. Salary is often dependent upon not only what education you have, but what experience you have. The U.S. Bureau of Labor notes that the median pay is just under $54,000, with the top 10 percentile getting $105,000 a year, and the low 10 percentile getting just over $29,000 a year. However, this does not always include the extremes on either end. For instance, freelancers sometimes do actually work for free, and on the other end of the spectrum, New York Times noted that one book review editor, made $180,000 in a year. This, however, was probably due to how much time they had worked with the company. One recent New York Times job listing for an editor noted that the salary would be decided upon the years of experience of the editor, which means they would have had to have experience previously before joining the New York Times. this is still pretty decent compared to a lot of other jobs. Here we can see a chart taken straight from the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics website. Here's the median pay for editors. Here's the median pay for media and communication workers who work on newspapers and radios. And here is the median pay for all jobs in the U.S. economy. Clearly it's not the lowest, and it's probably not the highest either. But let's compare it to a few who are generally assumed to be underpaid. The two that I think of most when I hear underpaid are cashiers and high school teachers. Cashiers get paid just about $19,000 a year, while teachers get $55,000 a year as compared to the editor's $54,000. The difference between cashier and editor is quite a jump. Cashiering does not require a higher level of education, but it usually is a job that one has while gaining it. In contrast, teachers do require this level of education. And teaching and editing both have an advantage over cashiering in that there's more room to grow in the company. Therefore, the level of education is usually worth it. So while the education requirements of an editor are not necessarily great, they are still necessary. A bachelor's degree is required in many places, although a passion for learning the ways of the publisher can be helpful as well. The type of education you'll need depends on the type of editing you're going to be doing and how many responsibilities you'll have in the company. And your education, in addition to your years of experience, will decide what kind of salary you can have. Passion may have to override pay in the first few years, but after a little experience gaining, editing can be a fulfilling and bill-paying career.